I was 27 the day my family cornered me in our old living room like I was a criminal. But to really understand how it got to that moment, the shouting, the accusations, the tears, you'd need to know a few things about me and, more importantly, about my family. My name's Ryan, and for most of my life, I've played the role of the quiet one, the chill one, the guy who doesn't stir up drama. I wasn't the golden child. That title belonged to my younger sister, Lauren, who could crash a car into a mailbox and somehow be praised for learning resilience. No, I was the one who learned to keep his head down, stay out of trouble, and never ask for too much. And for the most part, I was fine with that. Until things changed. We grew up in a decently middle-class neighborhood, the kind of place with yearly block parties and overwatered lawns. My dad, a retired firefighter, was the kind of man who held grudges like prized trophies, and my mom was the picture-perfect housewife on the outside, until you disagreed with her. And Lauren? Lauren was always the center of attention. Ever since we were kids, she had this way of pulling everyone's focus to her. Whether it was ballet recitals, honor roll certificates, which were often exaggerated, or tearful performances when she didn't get her way, she had the whole house orbiting around her. I didn't resent it at first. I was a quiet kid, more into tech than trophies, and I liked my space. But over time, it became impossible to ignore. I started noticing the little things when I turned 16. Like how Lauren got a brand new iPhone for her birthday while I was handed a hand-me-down flip phone with a cracked screen and half the buttons working. It's still good, Mom said. Or when I got into my dream college with a scholarship and no one even baked a cake. But when Lauren got accepted into a local university with an expensive tuition and zero financial aid, we threw her a backyard party with fairy lights and customized cookies. It's a big moment for your sister, Dad said. Be happy for her. I was. At least, I tried to be. But after college, I worked hard, started a remote job in IT consulting, and began saving. I didn't flaunt it. I never even brought it up. But eventually, I moved out, bought a modest apartment in a neighboring city, and slowly began building a life that wasn't about applause or validation. Meanwhile, Lauren burned through 3 internships, 2 job offers she ghosted, and 1 short-lived side hustle selling handmade candles that somehow cost my parents thousands in startup costs. Still, I visited when I could. Holidays, birthdays, the occasional Sunday dinner. I never felt completely welcome, more like a guest tolerated out of politeness. Mom would ask me questions that sounded more like criticisms. Still single? Don't you think it's time to settle down? You work online, right? That's not a real job, is it? And Lauren? She'd always be scrolling through her phone, casually dropping passive-aggressive lines like, must be nice to have no responsibilities, or wow, some of us have real stress, you know. I never took the bait. I figured it wasn't worth it. Then came the announcement. Lauren was getting married. To a guy named Jason. He seemed all right, calm, polite, worked in finance. I honestly thought maybe she'd finally settle down, maybe mellow out. My parents were thrilled. Immediately, the house turned into Wedding Central. Pinterest boards, color swatches, caterer trials. And the budget? Sky high. My parents dipped into their savings, and Lauren openly bragged about it. It's their only daughter's wedding, she'd say, laughing. They want it to be magical. I asked Dad once if he could really afford it. He waved me off. Don't worry about it. We'll manage. At the engagement party, I brought a thoughtful gift and congratulated Lauren, but she barely acknowledged me. Jason seemed to notice and gave me a half smile like he wanted to say something but thought better of it. That night, as I helped clear up empty glasses and plates, Mom pulled me aside and said, you should think about giving something more meaningful for the wedding. Your sister's doing all the work, after all. I blinked. Like what? She shrugged. You know, a bigger contribution. Maybe a check. I didn't answer right away. I wasn't against helping, but the way she said it, like it was expected, not appreciated, rubbed me the wrong way. Still, I went home that night and thought about it. Eventually, I decided I'd offer a generous gift, maybe a few thousand, quietly. But before I could bring it up, everything started unraveling. A week later, Dad called me out of the blue. Ryan, can you come over tonight? It's important. He sounded tense. I asked what was going on, but he just said, it's about the wedding fund. When I arrived at the house, it was like walking into an intervention. Mom, Dad, and Lauren were all standing in the living room. The air felt thick. Jason wasn't there. I barely had time to ask what was happening before Dad's face hardened, and he pointed to the couch. Sit. I sat. Mom crossed her arms. Lauren was biting her nails, red-eyed. Dad didn't waste time. We know it was you who took the $30,000. My stomach dropped. What? The wedding account, Mom said, voice tight. It's empty. Gone, Lauren said, voice cracking. Everything. All of it. I was going to make the final payments this week, for the venue, the dress, the florist, and it's gone. Who else has access but family? I stood up. You think I stole it? Dad's voice was stern. You've always had issues with your sister getting more attention. Don't deny it. Maybe you thought this would teach us a lesson. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I laughed, a short, disbelieving sound, but no one else was laughing. They were serious. Dead serious. I looked at Lauren, expecting her to at least defend me, but she looked away, silent. Show us your bank transfers, Mom demanded. Right now. I stared at her, then at Dad, then Lauren. I had never been so insulted in my life. My jaw clenched. My heart pounded. And slowly, I reached into my pocket. I pulled out my phone, not to prove my innocence, not yet, but to check something first. I opened a folder I'd kept for months. Something I never intended to use. Screenshots. Dozens of them. See, I noticed things. Odd things. Around the time Lauren announced her wedding, I'd been helping Dad set up the shared account they created to manage the wedding funds. It was under Lauren's name, with Mom and Dad linked for contributions. And I just happened to notice that Lauren was accessing it at weird times. Large withdrawals. And she wasn't subtle about her spending either. Instagram stories of new handbags, spa visits, luxury brands, and concerts. Not to mention the Coachella tickets she posted about, but quickly deleted. I never said anything before. I figured it wasn't my business. But now they were accusing me of theft? I slowly turned the screen toward Dad. The first screenshot was a transfer, $3,200 to a high-end boutique. Then $1,500 to a luxury spa. Then $4,800 for Coachella Premium Weekend Package. Lauren's face went pale, and I hadn't even shown the worst one yet. But before I could slide to the next image, Jason walked in through the front door. His eyes swept the room. He took one look at Lauren's face and asked, quietly, "What's going on?" Dad started to speak, but Jason held up a hand. "No, let Ryan speak." So I did. And when I got to the last screenshot, the one with Lauren transferring funds labeled venue deposit to her personal account before using it to buy a $2,000 purse, Jason's expression didn't change. He turned to Lauren. Jason didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. There was something about the way he looked at Lauren, still, cold, like someone watching a glacier crack in slow motion, that made the silence deafening. He looked down at the last screenshot I showed him, the one where $2,000 from the shared wedding fund had been funneled straight into a payment labeled Chanel, Rodeo Drive. Then he looked up at Lauren again, slower this time. She opened her mouth, probably to spin some kind of excuse, but no words came out. Her lips quivered. Her hand trembled where it rested on the armrest. Dad was the first to speak, and even he sounded shaken. "Lauren, is this true?" Lauren shook her head, too quickly. "No, that's not what it looks like." I almost laughed. Not out of humor, but out of sheer disbelief. "Really?" I said quietly. "Because it looks exactly like what it is. You drained the wedding fund and spent it on yourself." Jason's voice finally cut through. "You told me your parents were handling everything. That you were just managing the account." "They were," she snapped, almost reflexively. I needed a few things." "Lauren." Jason's jaw flexed. "That wasn't your money. That was supposed to be for our wedding." She stood up then, too quickly, knocking over the empty wine glass on the coffee table. "I can explain. You don't understand how stressed I've been. The pressure. The expectations. I needed an outlet. I needed a designer bag and Coachella?" I said deadpan. She whirled on me. "You don't get it. You've never gotten it. Everything's always been easy for you. You sit in your little apartment with your quiet job and your perfect savings." "Perfect savings?" I repeated. "You mean the ones I earned by not mooching off Mom and Dad for 5 years?" Dad raised a hand. "Enough." But it wasn't. Not for me. Not anymore. I turned to Mom, who had been eerily silent this whole time, her eyes wide but lips pressed in a hard line. "You knew," I said quietly. Her gaze flicked toward me, then quickly away. "I didn't know," she said carefully. I thought maybe she was borrowing. Temporarily. She's been draining that account for months, I said, pulling out one last screenshot, one I had hesitated to show. It wasn't from the wedding fund. It was from another account. Dad's. A private savings account he'd created years ago and linked, out of trust, when Lauren asked for help keeping track of deposits. $8,500 gone over the course of 3 weeks. Tiny transfers. Just under the radar. Dad stared at the screen. His face turned a shade I'd never seen before, somewhere between shock and grief. That was for emergencies, he said softly. Lauren's voice was thin now, panicked. I was going to pay it back. With what? I said. The money you don't make? That's when Jason took a step back. You lied to me, he said, quieter than I expected. You said you had everything under control. I did, she said, voice cracking. I was going to fix it. You used our wedding money like your personal piggy bank. I just wanted one thing to go right, she whispered. Jason slipped the engagement ring off with slow precision and held it in his palm. For a second, I thought he was going to say something poetic, something final. But he didn't. He just looked at her one last time, then turned and walked out the front door. And that should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Because in the weeks that followed, somehow, I became the villain again. At first, there was silence. A week where no one texted. No calls. Just this blank space that should have felt peaceful, but instead felt like a storm cloud holding its breath. Then came the messages. First from Mom. You really embarrassed your sister. That could have been handled privately. Then from Dad. We've lost Jason now. You could have just talked to us first. And finally, Lauren. A wall of text that started with "You've ruined my life" and ended with "I hope you're happy with yourself." I didn't respond to any of them, but I read them all, again and again, because some part of me, deep down, was still that kid who wanted his parents' approval, who wanted to be seen, heard, not just tolerated. And even though I knew I was right, even though I had the evidence, the truth, and basic human decency on my side, there was still a bitter taste in my mouth. Like I'd swallowed a jagged pill of guilt that wouldn't go down. 2 days later, Mom called. I let it ring 5 times before I picked up. Ryan, she said, voice tight, we need to talk. In person. I considered saying no. I should have. But something in me, curiosity, masochism, said yes. When I arrived, Dad wasn't home. Just Mom and Lauren, seated in the dining room like they were waiting for a funeral guest. Mom didn't waste time. Lauren's going through a hard time. You have no idea what it's like to be under this kind of pressure. I raised an eyebrow. She stole 30 grand. She borrowed. She made a mistake. She lied to everyone. I said, struggling to stay calm. And you all blamed me. Lauren sniffled, putting on that familiar wounded look. I was scared. I didn't know how to fix it. And then you humiliated me in front of Jason. I showed him the truth. I said, you humiliated yourself. There was a long pause. Mom leaned forward, her voice quiet. She wants to make things right. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Does she have 30 grand to give back? Mom hesitated. We were thinking, maybe you could help. And there it was. The moment. The breaking point. I stared at her, stunned. You want me to pay back the money she stole? It's a loan, she said quickly. You're doing well. You have savings. Your sister is in a really dark place right now. We're afraid she might. I stood up. Don't use that on me. Lauren looked up, eyes glassy. You have no idea how hard this has been. I've lost everything. No, I said. You lost the wedding. Jason's still alive. Your job prospects are still open. Your life isn't over. But you don't get to torch everything and expect everyone else to rebuild it for you. Mom stood up too. Ryan, please. If you care about this family. That's the thing, I said, suddenly calm. I don't think this family's cared about me in a long time. And I turned and walked out. The door clicked shut behind me. And for the first time in years, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. But that wasn't the end. Because a few days later, I got a notification. Lauren had posted a GoFundMe. Betrayed by my own brother. Help me recover from a wedding disaster, broken heart. The caption? A tearful story about theft, emotional trauma, and being abandoned by the people I love. And in the photo? A picture of her crying on the couch, with me blurred in the background, mid-walkout. That's when I knew. She didn't want forgiveness. She wanted followers. That's when I decided, no more silence. No more letting things slide. It was time to set the record straight. But not with a comment. Not with a text. No. If she wanted an audience, I'd give her one. I didn't respond to the GoFundMe. Not publicly. Not privately. Not even when it started showing up in my group chats or when coworkers messaged me with hesitant variations of, "Hey, is this about you?" I just kept refreshing the page every few hours, watching the numbers climb like someone witnessing a train wreck in slow motion. She made over $2,000 in the first week. People ate it up. The carefully worded sob story. The blurry photo of her in tears, head cradled in her hands like she was mourning a loved one instead of the consequences of her own actions. Her caption was a masterclass in passive-aggressive guilt baiting. Phrases like, "My brother turned on me. I was just trying to create a beautiful moment for my family. And I never expected betrayal from someone so close," painted a vivid picture of me as the cold-hearted villain. She never used my name, of course, just enough detail to let the story sell, without letting it legally backfire. Classic Lauren. And the comments? Those hurt more than I expected. Men will do anything to sabotage a woman's success. This is why I don't trust people who work in tech. No empathy. Your brother sounds jealous. Stay strong, queen. I didn't know these people. They didn't know me. But for some reason, their words stuck in my ribs like splinters. I should have let it go. Logically, I knew it was just the internet doing what it does best, picking sides based on headlines and vibes, but it still stung. Especially knowing that my own parents hadn't said a word. Not to defend me. Not to clarify. Nothing. That silence. That was the real betrayal. For a few days, I stopped working. I'd always been good at compartmentalizing, at keeping my personal life walled off from my professional world. But something about this public character assassination from my own sister, broke the dam. I found myself staring at my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard, unable to finish a single line of code. The screen blurred. My thoughts spiraled. What if people started believing her? What if this cost me clients? What if she won? I wasn't sleeping well. I'd lie in bed, eyes burning, replaying the moment Jason walked out. The moment Mom asked me to cover up the theft. The moment I realized they'll never choose me. Not unless they have something to gain from it. That was the moment the weight hit me. Not just of what had happened recently, but of everything. The years of being overlooked. The one-sided family obligations. The way every conversation with my parents ended with a veiled comparison to Lauren, like I'd somehow failed at life just because I wasn't flashy or loud. For the first time in my adult life, I seriously considered cutting them off. No texts. No visits. Just gone. But I didn't. Not yet. Because part of me, some bruised, stubborn piece, wasn't ready to disappear. Not until I showed them who I really was. Not until I reminded them that the quiet one was never weak, just patient. So I started small. Step 1. Lock down my digital footprint. I combed through every social media account, upped my privacy settings, removed any connections that could lead to online harassment. I even reached out to a friend in cybersecurity who helped me scrub old personal data from background search sites. Lauren could throw a tantrum online if she wanted, but I wasn't going to give her more ammo. Step 2. Therapy. Yeah, I know. It sounds cliché, but I needed it. Badly. I'd always brushed off the idea. Told myself I was fine, that I didn't need to talk about my childhood favoritism or the subtle emotional bruises left behind. But when you get falsely accused of theft and then turned into the villain of someone's fundraising campaign, yeah, that cracked something open. My therapist's name was Daniel. Mid-40s, straightforward, no nonsense. The first session, I didn't say much. Just laid out the bare facts. Waited for him to tell me I was overreacting or being dramatic. He didn't. He just nodded and said, "You're grieving a family that never really saw you." That sentence hit me so hard I almost walked out. But I stayed. And week by week, we unpacked everything. The way I always felt like I had to earn my place in the room. The way I stopped speaking up at home because silence was safer than mockery. The way I unconsciously picked jobs and friendships that didn't ask too much of me, because I'd been trained to believe that attention wasn't just rare, it was conditional. It wasn't about Lauren stealing 30 grand. It was about every tiny moment leading up to that theft. And for the first time, I wasn't brushing it off. I wasn't rationalizing. I wasn't protecting them. I was healing. Step 3. Rebuilding. I threw myself back into work. Not just because I needed the distraction, but because for the first time, I saw my job as something more than a paycheck. I had control there. I had worth there. Clients listened to me. Colleagues respected me. And I realized I'd been minimizing my own success just to avoid standing out too much. Like if I admitted I was doing well, it would trigger some kind of backlash from the people who were supposed to root for me. So I stopped minimizing. I updated my website, cleaned up my portfolio, reached out to past clients for testimonials. Within weeks, I'd landed 3 new contracts, big ones. One of them was for a tech startup launching a new productivity app. They loved my clean design style and offered me double my usual rate to fast-track the project. I said yes. I bought a new desk setup, a second monitor, noise-canceling headphones. For the first time, my home office didn't feel like a makeshift corner of my life. It felt like a headquarters, a command center for someone who finally believed he deserved to take up space. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was rising. And still, in the background, Lauren's GoFundMe limped along. She posted updates now and then, dramatic stuff like, I had to cancel another venue appointment today. Still no apology from my brother. The comments thinned out. Donations slowed. People lost interest. Good. Because while she was still spinning stories, I was quietly laying the groundwork for something else. I didn't know exactly what form my revenge would take. Not yet. But I knew one thing for certain. It wouldn't be petty. It wouldn't be impulsive. It would be surgical. Because people like Lauren didn't fear shouting matches. They fed off drama. They twisted conflict into sympathy. But what they couldn't handle was exposure. Cold, clinical truth. Delivered at the perfect moment, with nowhere to hide. So I started collecting. Not screenshots. Not this time. Receipts. I dug into Lauren's online presence. Her Venmo history. Her business page from the candle-selling days. I tracked refund requests from angry customers who never got their orders. I even found a Reddit thread where someone accused her of scamming a Depop buyer out of a $400 handbag. All public. All time-stamped. Then I dug into the GoFundMe. Under the terms of service, fraudulent campaigns could be reported. But I wasn't ready for that yet. Not until I had everything. And while I was building that case, something strange started happening. People reached out. Old friends from high school. A former roommate of Lauren's. Even an ex-boyfriend. They all said variations of the same thing. I saw your sister's fundraiser. Something about it didn't sit right. I always knew she was a bit manipulative, but this? Next level. You deserve better. Let me know if you need anything. It was the first time in my life that I realized. I wasn't alone. I had allies. People who saw through the performance. People who believed me. And that's when I knew I'd turned a corner. Not just professionally. Not just emotionally. But in identity. I wasn't the quiet one anymore. I was the underestimated one. And that made me dangerous. Because the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one shouting. It's the one who's been silent long enough to listen. To learn. To plan. I wasn't going to let this go. I wasn't going to be the bigger person. But I also wasn't going to become the monster they painted me as. No, I was going to be something worse. The person who exposes exactly who they are, without ever raising his voice. The night I decided to move forward with my plan, I sat in front of my dual monitor setup with a cup of green tea and a spreadsheet titled Operation Clarity. It was ironic. I'd spent my entire life trying to avoid family drama, dodging conflict like potholes on a back road. Now I was plotting a multi-stage strategy to expose my sister's lies and, in the process, take back everything she tried to rip away from me. This wasn't about revenge out of spite. It wasn't about ruining her wedding or humiliating her in front of strangers. That part was already done by her. No, this was about truth. Pure, unfiltered, public truth. The kind that doesn't ask for apologies. The kind that turns whispers into silence. I had to be meticulous. The emotional side of me wanted to scream at her, post receipts on social media, tag her fiancé, and every donor from her GoFundMe. But the calm side, the one sharpened by therapy, pain, and patience, knew better. I wasn't interested in winning a shouting match. I wanted to end the conversation altogether. First, I sorted my evidence into 4 categories. 1. Financial misuse. Transfers from the wedding account, including the $2,000 Chanel bag, the $4,800 Coachella package, and multiple smaller luxury purchases. Each had a date, a source, and a matching screenshot of a corresponding social media post. Pictures of Lauren in the same purse, spa selfies, concert videos she tried to delete. I even pulled archived versions from an Instagram tracking site. Once on the internet, always on the internet. 2. GoFundMe violations. Her fundraiser was filled with emotional manipulation, half-truths, and outright lies. I collected every update, Every comment she replied to with claims like, "My brother stole everything," and noted timestamps where she used cropped or staged images to support her narrative. Then I compared them with my own metadata, screenshots, texts, and the full conversation from the night she was exposed. I even had Jason's silent but undeniable reaction, walking out, ring in hand, as implied proof of her guilt. 3. Past scams. I gathered testimonials from people she'd burned in the past. An ex-roommate who had to pay off a lease when Lauren moved out suddenly and ghosted the landlord. A high school friend she borrowed money from during college and never repaid. A former customer who tried to buy candles and got shipped a melted box of wax and glitter. I offered to redact their names. Most said, "No need. I want her to know it's from me." 4. Psychological warfare. The final category was more personal. I didn't need it for GoFundMe or for legal purposes, but I needed it for me. Messages from my parents. The cold texts after Jason left. The way they rallied around Lauren without once calling to ask how I was doing. The emotional gaslighting. The way Mom looked me in the eye and asked me to fix what Lauren broke. I screenshotted those, too. Not to post, but to remember. For clarity. With the folder complete, I stored it on an encrypted drive and backed it up twice. Once on a flash drive hidden in a kitchen drawer, and once in cloud storage under a decoy name. Budget Planning 2023. Now I needed allies. Not to attack, but to amplify. I reached out to Jason first. He hadn't contacted me since the night he left. I didn't blame him. His life had imploded in real time, and he had every reason to disappear. But I needed to know where he stood. So I drafted a short, respectful message. "Hey, Jason. I hope you're doing okay. I haven't said this yet, but I'm sorry you had to find out the way you did. I know you probably want nothing to do with any of this, but if you ever feel like talking, or if you want to see what I've found, I'm here." He replied 10 minutes later. "I've been waiting for you to reach out. Let's talk." We met at a local coffee shop the next morning. He looked different, thinner, a little more hollow around the eyes, but clearer, too. Like someone who'd shed a weight he didn't even realize he'd been carrying. We didn't waste time on small talk. He said, "She tried to text me last week. Said you manipulated everything. That she was set up." I smiled. Classic Lauren. I didn't respond, he said. "I know what I saw, but what I didn't know is how far it went." So I showed him. The folder. The organized receipts. The matching Instagram posts. His face remained calm as he scrolled, but at one point he leaned back and let out a long exhale. "She didn't just steal money. She played all of us." I nodded. "I'm planning to report the GoFundMe, but I want to time it right." Jason looked at me for a long second. "What if I helped?" I blinked. "You'd go on record?" "She lied to everyone I know. My friends. My family. She made me look like an idiot. If I can be useful, use me." I thanked him. We exchanged numbers. He agreed to write a formal statement if needed. And before we parted, he said, "For what it's worth, you're nothing like how she described you." I smiled. "Neither are you." With Jason on board, I moved to the next phase, leverage. I wasn't trying to destroy Lauren's life. I just wanted the truth to reach the people who needed to hear it. And if possible, let her feel what it was like to answer for something for once. But before going public, I wanted to give her a choice. One last chance to fix it quietly. So I wrote her an email. "Lauren, I know we haven't spoken since the fundraiser, and I don't expect you to respond. But I'm giving you an opportunity here. I have evidence that your GoFundMe was built on false claims. That you misused the wedding account. That you manipulated our family, your friends, and the public. You can call it a misunderstanding. You can say you panicked. That's not my business anymore. What is my business is that you're using me as a villain to collect money under false pretenses. I'm asking you to take down the fundraiser. Refund what you can. Issue a brief apology, no details necessary. Just honesty. If you do that, I walk away. No posts. No reports. No exposure. Just peace. You have 72 hours. Ryan." She responded 11 minutes later. "Nice try. You think anyone's going to believe you over me? The socially awkward loner who barely speaks at family events? You've always been jealous. This is just your sad little revenge fantasy, because you're bitter I was the favorite. I don't owe you anything. Good luck playing hero. No one's watching." That was it. The final nail. I didn't even feel angry reading it. Just confirmed. Confirmed that no matter what I did, no matter how clean or kind or measured I was, she'd always paint me as the villain. Because to her, the truth was a threat. So I opened GoFundMe's fraud reporting portal, attached all my files, the receipts, the contradictions, the staged photos, Jason's written statement. I submitted the report at 3:14 p.m. on a Thursday. By Friday morning, the page was gone. Just 404 not found. No announcement. No post from Lauren. Nothing. She vanished from social media for 3 days. When she came back, her Instagram was locked. Comments disabled. Her follower count dropped by over 2,000. I didn't post anything. I didn't gloat. I just watched. Then came the call from mom. Blocked number. Straight to voicemail. I don't know what you did, but your sister's devastated. The page is gone. People are asking questions, and she's saying she might lose her job over this. You've made your point. Call me back so we can talk about fixing this. I didn't call back. I sat on my balcony, coffee in hand, and thought about how long I'd waited to be seen, to be understood, to be believed. And now that I didn't want their apologies. I wanted my peace. But I wasn't done yet. Because what Lauren didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the final phase hadn't even started yet. She lied to donors, to friends, to her fiancé. But the worst? She lied to people at work. People who thought they were donating to a woman abandoned by her evil brother. People who sent her money out of kindness. I had emails, screenshots, a tip already written, and one click away from sending it straight to her company's HR. But I paused, because maybe, just maybe, there was one more card to play. One final moment to look her in the eye and give her the same choice she refused to give me. Let her see the blade descending before it falls. Let her feel it. I gave her one more chance. Not out of mercy. By now, mercy was long off the table, but because I wanted her to feel the weight of knowing. The slow, creeping realization that everything she'd built out of lies was crumbling, and that I wasn't the same passive brother she could manipulate with a few tears and a guilt trip. I texted her from a new number. No greeting. No threats. Just a photo. It was her company's employee code of conduct policy, with a red circle around the section that read, "Any misuse of public fundraising campaigns for personal gain that may damage the company's reputation will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination." Underneath, I wrote, "HR doesn't know yet, but they will if I don't see a real apology. Public. Honest. No spin." I waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then my phone buzzed. "You're bluffing." Then another. "You wouldn't do that to your own sister." And finally, "You're pathetic. You've always been jealous of me, and you still are." 3 messages, same pattern, deflection, manipulation, rage. She never learned. So I sent the email. I made it short and professional. I attached the relevant screenshots, her fundraiser, the false claims, the way she named her company as supportive in her updates to gain trust from donors. I explained that I was reporting as someone misrepresented in her public campaign and requested anonymity as a third party. I didn't ask for punishment. I didn't even suggest consequences. I just told the truth. By Monday morning, she was fired. Jason told me. Apparently, she called him in hysterics, sobbing, saying I had ruined her career and taken everything from her. But I hadn't. She had. I simply turned the lights on. The fallout spread fast. Her little GoFundMe stunt had been seen by more people than I realized. Co-workers, friends, even mutuals from college. The gossip moved through group chats and private messages like wildfire. Her Instagram account went dark again, and someone screenshotted a post from her Finsta where she wrote, "I'm being harassed and stalked by my brother. If anything happens to me, it's his fault." That was the moment I knew she'd try to flip the narrative. So I did something preemptive. I posted a single thread on Reddit. An anonymous one. No names. No identifying details. Just a factual, emotionally honest account of everything. The wedding fund, the accusations, the fundraiser, the evidence, the silence from my parents. I uploaded it in our / entitled Parents, under the title. My sister accused me of stealing her wedding money. Then I found out she used it for Coachella. It went viral within 24 hours. People shared it, screened it, commented on it by the thousands. And in the thread, I never once insulted her. I didn't need to. The story spoke for itself. And that's when something wild happened. Someone from her former job, someone who had donated to her GoFundMe, saw the post and commented, confirming they'd received a company-wide email about her departure due to internal investigation. They didn't name her, but it didn't take a genius to connect the dots. Within 2 days, Lauren deactivated all her accounts. No more curated life. No more audience. Just silence. As for my parents, it took them another week to reach out. This time, Dad called me himself. His voice was rough. Not angry, tired. Maybe for the first time, genuinely tired. Your mom's been crying a lot, he said. I said nothing. She feels like we failed both of you. That stung. Not in the way he thought it would. It wasn't guilt. It was resentment, because only now, after the world saw who Lauren really was, did they start questioning the stories they'd believed for decades. I wanted to say we're sorry, he added. Are you? I asked. Silence. She stole 30 grand from you. I said. She lied to everyone. You blamed me without hesitation. You only started listening when she lost everything. That doesn't feel like parenting. That feels like damage control. More silence. Then, you're right. I let the words hang there. For once, I didn't fill the pause. I didn't try to make him comfortable. I didn't offer relief. Eventually, he spoke again. If you're willing, we'd like to talk. In person. Clear the air. I told him I'd think about it. I haven't yet. And honestly, I don't know if I will. Because in the weeks that followed, something strange happened. Peace. I wasn't used to it. At first it felt too quiet, like waiting for a storm. But it wasn't a storm. It was freedom. I slept better. I laughed more. I reconnected with old friends, went hiking for the first time in years, even booked a trip to Seattle, just because. I didn't check my phone obsessively. I didn't second-guess every text from family. I finally lived without that subtle tension buzzing beneath my skin. And Jason? He started seeing someone new. A teacher. They seemed happy. He texted me one night. Thank you for showing me the truth. I don't know how I didn't see it before. I just replied, when you're in the story, it's hard to read the ending. I never wanted revenge. Not really. I just wanted the truth to have weight. And it did. Lauren lost her job, her credibility, her curated online identity. She had to sit in the rubble she built with her own hands. And me? I didn't just get justice. I got my life back. My name. My voice. My peace. And no one, not my sister, not my parents, not 1,000 GoFundMe comments, can ever take that from me again. The quiet one finally spoke, and the silence afterward was the loudest thing they'd ever heard.
Something like that. Do you guys think that's enough for my lunches for work? My notification is just Strawberry Toasted has given you a child. True. Hey Tom, rate the food. I mean, I can make a little bowl for myself, but look. Is that enough? Guys, do you think that's enough?